Hello student, currently we are learning the philosophical lecture from The Principles and Art of Cure by Homeopathy, written by Dr. H.A. Robert. From this book we are learning the second chapter, that is the introduction to the study of homeopathy. Since 4 lecture we completed whatever is the important concept he put forth regarding the principle of homeopathy, and now we reach to the last part of the lecture. In previous lecture we learned homeopathy is a product of inductive logic, isn't it? And as homeopathy is a product of inductive logic, the criteria fulfilled by homeopathy, which is nothing but the exact observation, correct interpretation, rational explanation and scientific construction. How homeopathy fulfill the criteria of inductive logic? And he explained in very descriptive way. The exact observation is the Hahnemann's disappointment towards the prevailing system of medicine, and then he left his lucrative medical practice and start the work of translation for his bread and butter. Then while translating Cullen's Materia Medica, whenever he satisfied with the explanation given by Dr. Cullen regarding the treatment of the cure of malarial fever by the application of cinchona bark, and that's why Hahnemann decided to know the action of cinchona bark on himself, and the first experiment of the proving was conducted by Dr. Hahnemann on himself. And as he took the good china 4 drams twice a day, and he observed the malaria like symptom, and this observation, it is a correct observation, and here he first caught the gleam of light that led him to an understanding of the reasonable application of remedies. That means by virtue of producing the similar symptom in healthy human being, the cinchona bark cure the malarial fever whenever it administered to the sick individual. And by this gleam of light he proved many other medicine on himself, on his family member, on his disciple and friend, and he started the experimentation of these proved remedy against the various type of disease condition according to the law of similia, and he got very wonderful result from the application of law of similia. And then the correct interpretation is that it is by virtue of producing this artificial similar stronger disease in human being, this natural disease is totally get cured or annihilated. Then the rational explanation that Hahnemann was not the first person who realized the efficacy of the similar remedy in case of cure, while before Hahnemann so many persons like Hindu sages or Ayurveda, then by Hippocrates, Paracelsus, Starr, Bethardine, Celsus, Xenocrate, various other medical physician in the medicine hinted this application of law of similia in the role of law of similia in cure, while none other physician work on that, and therefore Hahnemann was the only person who experimented consistently on this law of similia and established homeopathy as a very scientific method of therapeutic. and therefore he was called as a father of father of homeopathy. Then the last part of the inductive logic is the true scientific construction. Yes, true scientific construction means it is which have the very rational explanation, and it is that principle which is applied anywhere, any time, and the inference of this scientific experimentation is always the same. And similarly, the drug proving is the scientific part of the homeopathy, and which is he applied the principle evolved from his inductive reasoning and correlate experiment he had conducted. And this as homeopathy fulfill all these criteria of the inductive logic, therefore homeopathy is called a product of inductive logic. Then let us see the next paragraph. And so to the principle of inductive reasoning led Hahnemann through his observation of the effect of remedies administered on the basis of symptom similarity to the gradual decrease of the dose because of the consequent drug effect as differentiated from the remedial effect of the substance administered, that by virtue of the symptom similarity, whenever we induce a drug to the sick human being, because of the largeness and crudeness of the dose, this medicine produce the unnecessary aggravation of the symptom prior to the annihilation or the removal of the symptom. And observing this fact, he continuously reduced the dose by dilution, but this dilution in the very indefinite scale, and this decrease of the dose was developed according to a definitely scaled formula, and then turned to lead to the discovery of principle of potentization. This potentization, discovery of the potentization, that means continuously reducing the quantity of medicine while the quality of medicine goes on increasing, because the principle, the release of energy, the drug energy which is lies hidden or latent in the crude drug substances, by the process of potentization, thus there is a release of this drug energy. This discovery of the principle of potentization was Hahnemann's greatest gift to the science in general and to the medicine in particular. Then here we finished all this part in previous lecture. This shows the relation of facts to the principle of homeopathy with an outline of the reasoning process by which homeopathy was worked out and built up, and it is applicable in every concrete case which a homeopathic physician may be called upon to treat. The principles involved are the same: the examination of the patient or the record of the proving, the analysis and evaluation of the symptom in each case, the selection of the remedy. All these are conducted under the rules and in an orderly method based upon inductive reasoning. Yes, for every case we have to enter in a new environment, take the case taking of each and every case with unprejudiced mind, and then you have to done the analysis and evaluation of the symptom in each case. Then make a totality of symptom which consists of the characteristic symptom of the patient, which individualize the patient from other patient of the same disease, and then the selection of the remedy. This process you have to conduct, or you have to done for each and every case. Thus we determine what is characteristic in the patient and in the remedy. The characteristic symptoms are always in the generals of the patient. These general symptoms are always characteristic in nature because they represent patient as a whole or person as a whole. What is true is one symptom may often be true of the whole patient, is illustrated by the reaction to thermic changes of individual part and symptoms, and may be true of the whole man. Therefore, while we strive to form a picture of the totality of symptoms, we must instinctively evaluate and find ourselves assembling symptoms as applying to the whole man or to his individual part, as the case may be, as Close well put in his Genius of Homeopathy. Yes, this analysis and evaluation of the symptom is very important part in homeopathy, and therefore this question of the analysis and evaluation need very skillful attention, you can say, which Stuart Close explained in his Genius in Homeopathy. You know, Master Hahnemann has to some extent pointed this principle of and means for evaluation, and these have been subsequently elaborated to the great extent by Dr. Kent and other stalwarts of homeopathy. And for the analysis and evaluation of the symptom, the homeopath acquires more skill, and the more he becomes successful in homeopathy. The logic facilitates the comprehension of the related totality or picture of the symptom of the case as a whole. All the parts, logic construct the whole. It reveals the case, in other words, by generalizing it, assigns each detail to its proper place and give concrete form to the case so that it may be grasped by the mind in its entirely. Thus the concept of, or here is the holistic concept, that you should not or you never classify the person in different organ while consider a patient as a whole in health as well as in disease. The true totality is more than the mere numerical totality or whole number of symptoms. Yes, the true totality is not only the collection assembling of the all symptoms. It is not a numerical totality and how many symptoms are there, but it is a very characteristic totality which reveals the individuality of the person. It may even exclude some of the particular symptoms if may cannot at the time be logically related to the case. Yes, the least important given to the particular symptom and most important given to the general symptom. Then the general symptoms are always characteristic in nature, while the particular symptoms has least important in the totality of symptoms. Such symptoms are called accidental symptoms and are not allowed to influence the choice of the remedy. The totality is that concrete form which the symptoms take when they are logically related to each other and stands forth as an individuality, recognizable by anyone who is familiar with the symptomatic form and lineaments of drug and disease. The basis of the homeopathic prescription is the totality of the symptom of the patient as viewed and interpreted from the standpoint of the prescriber. Yes, this totality is totally depending on the skill of the homeopathic physician, because as viewed and interpreted from the standpoint of the prescriber. This now let us consider what is the real method of this evaluation. This it is which required the skill and there is no fixed path or condition as to where and when these individualizing symptoms will be available. It depends on the skill of observation, perseverance and diligence of the physician. After all, our basic aim should be individualization, isn't it? And therefore, you should acquire the skill of interpretation of the symptom. Then you can evaluate it properly. A successful prescription cannot be made from the standpoint of diagnostician, the surgeon, nor the pathologist. Such because of the different interpretation and classification of the symptom. A prescription only be made upon those symptoms which have their counterpart or similar in the materia medica. Yes, the prescription you have to only you can, or the prescription or the selection of remedy is only depending upon the characteristic symptom of the patient, and which you have to match with the which is the similar in the materia medica. Which remedy give the exact symptom similarity, that is a characteristic symptom similarity to the case. Individuality is incalculated always in the examination of the case. The three steps always followed in a carefully developed case consist in: first, the examination of the patient. Yes, examination of the patient, it is a case taking, and if you follow strictly all the indication, all or Hahnemann advice in his aphorism number 83 to 104, all the instruction given by Hahnemann you should follow, then you can get the very effectual case taking, that is the examination of the patient. Then it is followed by the examination of the symptom, record of the patient. Yes, all the symptoms which you record or recorded in your write down in your case paper, then the work of the analysis and evaluation of the symptom, which is totally depending upon the skill of the prescriber. And then after making the totality, then the examination of the materia medica, that means you have to select the exact similar remedy from materia medica. These three steps are very important and you have to very carefully develop after case taking. After this step are logically taken and analyzed, they lead by the process of induction to the general of the case. For the generals are the sum total of the particulars. Yes, for the generals are the sum total of the particulars. That means whatever is the sensation we observe more than two particulars, then it is considered as a general one. The value of generalization depends primarily upon the data from which it is drawn. For it is an axiom of philosophy that a general truth is but the aggregate of particular truth, a comprehensive expression by which an indefinite number of individual facts are affirmed or denied. Yes, whatever is true for the more than one organ or particular symptom, then you have to consider it is a generalized, or you generalize this. There is a grand generalization. You can fulfill the data by taking the help of this sensation, modalities and concomitant also from the which is available at the particular level. Here it is not possible to form generals until we have considered special particular symptoms and analyze and assimilate them in their relation to the whole. Yes, this generalization of the symptom is very easy when you take the case taking, and whatever is the symptom you observed in a particular level, then it is a skill how to understand the relation of this particular symptom to the whole patient, isn't it? Then you can convert this particular symptom into general symptom. Minor particulars enter into major, and major into one all-inclusive concept of the case. Such an all-inclusive measure is similia similibus curanter, the most complete and far-reaching generalization ever made from the deduction of the individual facts. Yes, whatever individual facts means whatever the symptoms observed or narrated by the patient, isn't it? This individual fact, that is the symptoms, which is the outward reflection of the internal derangement of the vital force, and therefore by this deduction, although these are observed at a particular level, you can generalize, make a generalization of the particular symptom. The value of generalization depends on its essence upon the data from which it is drawn. The fact must be both accurate and complete. Here we have many and clear mental symptoms. Yes, these mental symptoms which depict the personality of the patient and patient as a whole, and therefore the much importance for the generalization of the case, you must give the most important to the mental symptoms. They are always generals, for they represent the man in the most characteristic sense. Yes, the importance of the mental symptoms is given here. Let us try to understand why these mental symptoms are important. Because every human being from the very onset of his fetal life is endowed with a will force, and he has his own mindset. This will force is responsible for the development of a full-fledged baby at birth. All human beings are born with their respective hereditary individuality, which is mainly governed by the gene and various environmental factors. This mental state, or you can say mental attitude, or this mind, it is how it is developed, it is totally depending upon the genes, and which affected by the various environmental factors. What happened then after birth? The reactionary capacity, that is whatever is the susceptibility of the particular patient, may be altered, amended or increased by the influence of environment. Various disease forces and place and time and various incidents of their life, education, culture, etc. And the living human being is composed of these trios of will force, mind and the material body. The impulse which originates in the will force undergoes analysis in the mind and has outward manifestation in the body. If an impulse originates in the will force for going out somewhere, it will be analyzed in the mind as to its justification or the power of justification, when and how to go, etc. After the decision is taken in favor, the body takes the move, and therefore body is subordinate to mind and mind is subordinate to will force, and all these again are subordinate to myself or I. Then the question arises, who is this I? And the word I denotes a full-fledged human entity. This word I denotes a full-fledged human entity, and therefore the symptoms which are depicted or narrated by the patient by using the word I are of much importance because which reflect the inner man, the person or the inner person, you can say. This will force is nearest to this entity. Then comes serially the mind and body. For evaluation of the symptom, we must be conversant with this evolution of symptom. When a man falls sick, the symptoms appear serially according to this phenomena. That means whenever there is a derangement or dynamic, you can say dynamic derangement of the dynamic vital force, then the first there is a deviation at the spiritual level or disturbance at the spiritual level, then on the mental plane, then on the physical plane. Serially these symptoms appeared. When man falls sick, the symptoms appear serially according to this phenomena. When the disease manifestation are observed in the body or you can say tissues, the disease is to be considered to have reached the last phase of the development. Then according to homeopathy, why the mental symptoms are most important? Because the opportune time to fight with the disease is its primary stage, when the symptoms are manifested due to derangement of the vital force, but it has not yet reached the level of the organic changes, and therefore if you fortunate to collect the symptom at the mental level, then you definitely say the curability of the disease, because at this stage there is no much organic symptoms are developed, and therefore all these symptoms which are related to the will force or you can say mental state, these are all important. Then therefore H. Robert told you that where we have many and clear mental symptoms, they are always general, for they represent the man in the most characteristic sense. Modalities again are always general, for they are the natural modalities of the case. Where there are no general, says Kant, we can expect no cures. Yes, these modalities make the symptom characteristic one, and therefore modalities are always which make the symptom characteristic one. That is a very common sensation. When modified by this natural modalities, then it becomes a uncommon one. The approach to the study of the case and the approach to the study of the materia medica are essentially the same. The materia medica in the facsimile of the sickness. Yes, that means whatever is a materia medica is constructed, these are constructed from the collection of the symptom during the experiment of drug proving, and in experiment of drug proving the external stimuli is the drug, and whenever we administer to the healthy person, there is a artificial disease is produced. The disease which is produced in healthy human being, it is totally artificial one, occurred because of the administration of the drug, and this primary action of the drug produces some symptom and as exactly as the naturally in a disease course. Therefore the materia medica which is constructed artificially by from the experiment of drug proving, and therefore the disease which occur naturally, and whenever you compare with materia medica, it is a facsimile of the sickness. It is just similar, exact similar to the artificial disease. One with the natural disease, and whatever is the phenomena occur in a natural disease which is exactly similar when the disease or symptom produced during proving. Have you got this? And this exact symptom similarity which occurred in a natural disease as well as in the artificial disease is very same. Boni-Hussain has shown in his repertory that these aggravations and amelioration are modalities and therefore rank as a general. Yes, these modifying factors which may aggravate or ameliorate the complaint make the symptom, and these are therefore are the general because these react person as a whole, and therefore these are all considered as a general symptom, isn't it? Close rates this repertorial work as the greatest masterpiece of analysis, comparison and generalization in our literature. The attempt to limit the application of the modality to the particular symptom with which they were first observed has not been successful in practice. So, Boni-Hussain's grouping of them as general was a masterpiece of inductive reasoning. Writing in regard to these modalities which he considered general, he says, yes, the grand generalization or the concept of the grand generalization which is put forth by Dr. Boni-Hussain is very much important. Yes, whatever is true to the particular, it is true to the whole personality or whole individual. By the Boni-Hussain method, there is no opportunity to distinguish between the patient and the particulars. Whatever is true to the particular part, you can consider it is applicable to the person as a whole, isn't it? And therefore by the method of deduction you can generalize the symptom. The attempt to limit the application of the modality to the particular symptom with which they were first observed not been successful in practice. Yes, you only restricted the modality to the particular part, then you can't able to select a proper medicine. Therefore, Boni-Hussain assert that all of these indications are so trustworthy and have been verified by such manifold experience that hardly any other can equal them in rank, to say nothing is surpassing them. Yes, whatever is a symptom which we collect, it is manifold means it is various experiences. We verified it, that is a grand generalization which verified it by the various experiences, and that hardly any other can equal them in rank. They say nothing of surpassing them. That is, it is always excellent, isn't it? It is not incorrect that if we generalize the particular symptom. But the most valuable fact respecting them is that this characteristic is not confined to one or another symptom, but like a red thread, it turns through all the morbid symptoms of given remedy. Yes, whatever is a characteristic modality you obtain at the particular level, it is not confined to one or another symptom, but like, yes, it is a generalized one, like a red thread, it runs through all the morbid symptom of the given remedy, which are associated with any kind of pain whatever, or even with a sensation of discomfort, and hence it is available for both external and internal symptom of the most varied character. Yes, you see the whatever is the symptom appeared at the, or whatever is the sensation or modality we are available at a particular level, you consider it is the expression of the whole person, isn't it? And it is expressed outwardly as it is a because of the derangement of the vital force, and this as a whole, that is, therefore it is considered the general. This grand generalization of Born-Huijsen is very helpful for the selection of remedy. If we not able to collect the very, or the symptoms are not available, you can transfer the symptom from the particular level to general level. He arrived at this truth by the inductive study of the facts, and the results were the product of sound reasoning. We see then that homeopathy is more than the law of similars. Yes, from this explanation, above explanation, now we consider that homeopathy is not only the application of law of similar, but it is various other principle and law. You have to take the consideration of these all principle along with the law of similar, that these are all subordinate, these are all corresponding principle to the law of similars, isn't it? And therefore homeopathy is more than the law of similar. Therefore the successful application of the homeopathy on the law of similar is not enough, but you have to take help of all these cardinal principle and various other processing after case taking. It is basically a scientific method of healing which is based upon natural laws and developed by inductive reasoning. It is closely allied with the principle of natural growth and development. Yes, this homeopathy is closely allied with the principle of natural growth and the development, natural growth and the susceptibility, then the involvement of the genes and external environment, and how these are affected on the natural growth, and how this from the external environment, how the person is susceptible to various type of diseases, and how this disease phenomena is occur, how this develop, how this produce disease, and also the restoration from sick to health. All this development at the level of human being, these are all the principle of homeopathy. The whole fabric is summed up in the third paragraph of the organon, where Hahnemann writes, yes, the third aphorism, if the physician clearly perceives what is in disease is general, and in each case of disease in particular that has to be cured, that is a knowledge of disease. Every physician perceive means not only see, not only look, or not only collect the symptom, but the perceive means apply your mind, apply your brain, and see through the light of your knowledge, that is the knowledge of disease. What is, you have to disease in general, that is the concept, that the grand generalization of the disease, or the how the whole, general means how the whole organism get affected by the disease force and how it is located in a particular part, that is a knowledge of disease. Then knowledge of the requirement of disease or disease indications, and whatever is the symptoms develop at the particular level, and this all collection of the symptom from your case. If he clearly perceives what is the healing principle in medicine generally and in each medicine in particular, that means the knowledge of materia medica. This knowledge of materia medica, that means how the artificial disease develop by the administration of the drug. So you have to study each and every drug, that is a law of simplex. You have to prove single simple remedy, prove single simple remedy on healthy human being and get acquainted with the healing power, that is the healing power nothing but the pathogenetic action of the medicine in general and in each medicine in particular. That means what is the involvement and the on that particular every drug has an affinity to affect on a particular organ or system. Then you have to know only by the experiment of drug proving, and then only you get the pathogenicity of the medicine, which is nothing but the knowledge of the powers of medicine. Powers of medicine, power to produce the disease, power to produce the symptom, and in which particular organs specifically, and therefore you have to prove each and every medicine on healthy human being and strictly maintain the purity of the experiment. That means prove single simple remedy. If in the light of clear principle he can so adapt the healing virtue of the drug to the illness that is to be cured, that recovery must follow. Then if he has the ability not only to select the particular remedy whose mode of action is most suitable to the case, that is a choice of the remedy or the indicated medicine. This is according to the totality of symptom. You have to make the totality of symptom. You individualize your case. Here the term totality of symptom, which is not only the means sum total of the symptom, but it is not a numerical aggregation of the symptom, but a picture or portrait derived from a logical combination of all the subjective and objective symptoms. And therefore Hahnemann says in his Organ of Medicine that disease is nothing but the totality of symptom, and removal of this symptom totality in its entirety is cure. That is a characteristic symptom you have to consider here. Hahnemann term, the symptom totality is as equivalent to disease, which depict the individuality of the patient and not the totality of the diagnostic symptom, isn't it? And therefore he never meant the totality of the symptom of the disease alone, ignoring the individuality of the patient. And therefore you have to here there is the selection of the particular remedy strictly according to the basis of individualization. Then after but also to choose the exact quantity of remedy required, and here there is a concept of susceptibility, isn't it? This, by considering the susceptibility and nature of disease, whether it is acute, whether it is chronic, whether the reversible whether the pathological changes are developed, whether these are reversible or irreversible, every factor you have to take into consideration when you have to select the exact quantity of the remedy. That means exact potency you have to select it is called a suitable dose to that particular individual patient, isn't it? Therefore and lastly the fitting period for its repetition. Then again, not only the suitable potency, not only the exact similar medicine, then you have to select the exact potency also, and then the repetition of the doses. Then see, everything is appear here. That means from the knowledge of disease which we obtain, we have to know the knowledge of disease in general. That is means you must have a knowledge of each and every disease which we can obtain from the various book of medicine, pathology, gynecology, surgery, etc. Then the knowledge of disease in particular, that is case taking. Then the case processing isn't it? Then case processing, that is the analysis and evaluation of symptom, then totality of the symptom. Then you must have a knowledge of materia medica. Then you have to compare this totality of the symptom which reflect the individuality of the symptom, and this totality is not only the sum total of the or aggregation of the all symptoms, while which reflect the individuality of the patient. The individuality is very much important, which important for the selection of medicine from your materia medica, isn't it? After the selection of remedy, you have to which is the indicated remedy, means which is exactly similar, individualization is there. Then choose the exact quantity, that means the potency of the disease by considering the susceptibility and also the repetition of the doses. The homeopathy included all these processing. If I say he knows all these things, yes, you must know all these things, and in addition recognizes in every case the hindrances to lasting recovery. The hindrances means obstacle. This by processing the case according to homeopathy, as Hahnemann advised in aphorism number 3, if the cure, and you should predict. Yes, definitely, if you are very much confidence regarding the all these processes, that is the knowledge of disease, then knowledge of disease in individual patient, then the selection of remedy, then selection of potency and repetition of the doses. If you strictly follow all these rules according to homeopathy, then you should be a predictive one, that there is the process of the cure must be established. But if unfortunately it is not established, then in every case you have to find out the hindrance to the lasting recovery. If there is any obstacle to cure, isn't it? You must have a knowledge whether there is an obstacle to cure and the area which you have to find the during case taking, what are the exciting cause, what are the maintaining cause, and advise your patient not to be not to create the obstacle in the path of cure, and therefore find it out clearly what are the obstacle in cure, lasting recovery, and can remove them. Yes, sometimes the fundamental cause may be the obstacle in cure, and you must have a knowledge how to remove them. Then only let us see how many work you have to done to achieve a successful result from homeopathy. How much efforts you have to done to reach to the line of success, isn't it? And each case is challenge for you, isn't it? And therefore you ready for hard work. Then truly he understand how to build up his work on an adequate basis of reason, and he is a rational practitioner of the healing art. Yes, then only he would be a rational practitioner of the healing art. Yes, healing art, it is which give comfort or very easy, very rapid and gentle cure to the patient. Rational means scientific. Whatever is the work done by him, it is not a guesswork or any fiction, while it should be a rational one, isn't it? Then only whenever he stick up to the principle and law of homeopathy, when his whole process is founded upon the concrete basis of the principle and law of homeopathy, whenever he is in each and every instance, in each and every case, he desired to select a remedy according to the strictest principle of homeopathy, then only he would be a rational practitioner of the healing art. Here we finish this lecture number 2. Let us, it is a message. Medicine cure diseases, yes, but only doctors can cure patient. Yes, it is medicine, the whatever is the instrument in your hand, isn't it? but the applicability of the medicine is in the hand of doctor. How to apply this medicine in the hand of doctor? Therefore, only the doctor can cure the patient. The efforts of the doctor, the you can say the hard work, then the sincereness or the fidelity, this honesty cure the patient. Okay, thank you.